Welcome to the Heroes Global Championship. We are about to end week 2 here on our 3rd day with some great matches, and we've got some flags floating around here. 4th of July coming up soon here. My name is Trixler, and I'm joined by President Caldor.
That would be an interesting change.
That would be an interesting change. We'll let you be president of HGC for today only. I'll be your vice president. Sound good?
Yeah, but what does it mean? What can I actually do?
You can dictate matches when we start them. I'll let you start a game for once today. That'd be great. You can be like, you know what? Let's start the series, and you intro it in.
But I already did that.
Oh, man,
threat.
I got nothing for you. Let's be real. The president really doesn't do anything. It's all about his delegates around. Josh is actually the real president in the background.
Can I send mean tweets?
You cannot send mean tweets. We're going to be a
but
nice
I'm already
president.
doing that.
You're going to be a good guy, Caldor. Guys, we have some good matches today. We have Fnatic and Tricked Esports starting the day off, and it's going to be a good one. Tricked Esports, another team that I'm starting to figure out where they are in the standings. This weekend has been all about that.
Yeah, exactly. We started, of course, well, we started on Friday, but yesterday was one of the days where we found out just how good the good guys are. They impressed in yesterday's series.
Yeah.
They had a few shaky games. It was funny. I talked to Raid Boss earlier, and he went through the games a bit and said, okay, we got what we wanted. Then our opponent started to figure us out a little bit more. And then I mentioned Sky, and he just immediately said, you know what, just don't talk about Sky.
The good guys
that
living
never
up to the
happened, never really happened. Yeah,
they lived to the name and they gave away bosses.
Like, we feel bad for you. Here's a free boss, just take it.
Good guys. Let's go ahead and check out the standing and see where the good guys and the rest of the teams are currently sitting at the very tippy top. Fnatic with a 2-0 as they have continued to be awesome here as they've beaten Team Liquid as well as the Zealots. Team Liquid right below them and Dignitas as well. But the main story, Tricked Esport at number 4 will be facing off against Fnatic, and it's a really big important moment for them as Team Expert. They could move up if Tricked Esport were to lose today, as they'll be taking on Dig later on.
Exactly. So this is going to be an important match as well. But overall, the standings are just fantastic right now. Fnatic looking strong, Liquid on the other hand. It came very close at taking down. This is just one of these situations that we're having where Liquid is saying, we shouldn't even have lost a single match here. So at this point, they're super confident. They feel that the meta really caters towards them. And it's a great time to actually watch HGC now.
And watching HGC is what you'll be doing today. Let's talk about the schedule. All the matches that you'll have available at your monitor, your station, wherever you're watching these games currently. At the very top, we'll have Fnatic and Tricked Esports starting out the day. But our second match of the day is the one I'm probably looking at the most.
Yeah.
Team Dignitas and Team Expert. How will these two do? Dignitas looking a little bit rough as of late. They've got a victory here and there, but boy, do they have some rough games this weekend.
Yeah, Expert at this point, they are really the team that needs to make something happen here. Dignitas, yes, they lost the series, but they are still the team that is expected to come in as the favorite and just take down Expert. But Expert has been aiming for a spot in the top 3 for a long time now. And this is really one of those moments where they are themselves saying, hey, we can do it. We know it's hard. We know it's difficult. It's not going to be a free win here, but we can definitely pull it off. And I want to see if it happens this time.
And I want to see if Dig is going to continue to experiment. That's what they did on Friday against the good guys, and they went all the way to a Game 5. Saw some great moments there. Saw some moments that seemed to pull them back a little bit. Are they going to refine and come in? Because they're going to need to against a team like Expert. I don't think you can play around as much. But our first matchup of the day, Fnatic taking on the wonderful Tricked Esports. Let's hear their thoughts about the matchup.
Our match against Tricked, we definitely expect a win, but you have to be really careful playing against them, especially because Alex the Pro G has such a different hero pool that you really have to be wary of. And if you don't respect Alex's picks, then he's gonna punish you for it. I think Tricked is gonna be a bit stronger than last season. I think they're gonna be able to contest the top teams, but not really beat them quite yet. They have a more well-rounded roster now. Eternal was a better player, but I think Makke has a lot of room to improve, and he plays like the more appropriate role, and he's the more appropriate personality, I think, with the shot calling and stuff. So I think they're gonna be a bit better, but not really top 4 or top 3.
I think we are very happy taking down Team Expert 3-2, but I don't think we should have lost to playing Ducks, but we are still fine with it. I don't think we had an embarrassing performance, but it could have been better. With our new roster, it was like a long-term change, and we expected to be much weaker than what we are right now. I don't think we have too many expectations going up against the world champions. Also last week against Sealers, they really showed that they are on another level than all the other teams. So I think we're gonna go in with a bit of cheese and hope that we can manage to take a map winner too.
It's really interesting to hear Alex talk about Fnatic and being the world champions, and then we talked to Quack next week before that, and Quack's is like, do not call us world champions yet. We're mid-season Brawl champions. Our main goal is BlizzCon. Fnatic is still driven, as always.
Yeah, they are really driven, and they are also a team that came back from Sweden, and, well, they actually technically didn't come back. They still stayed there. But
They traveled a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. They traveled a little bit, but not as much as anyone else. But they said, it's much more important for us now to really get back into regular practice, and we need to focus on that. It was also much easier for them to transition than when they came back from BlizzCon, because they say everyone else has been practicing so much that they got better while we were at the mid-season brawl, so we will have to really step it up or we will just lose out on games, and we can't afford to do that if we want to go to BlizzCon again.
I'm excited to see if Tricked can pull out a few games against Fnatic as well, as we saw them play last week and they played great. Make in particular is really starting to form well into this team. I loved seeing the Diva play from Alex the Pro G. They seem to really jump on top of that, mix up and use him pretty often. So let's check out the Battleground, see where we're going for game number 1 to start our Sunday here. And Fnatic, interestingly enough, will be picking BOE, which I would say is probably one of Tricked's best battlegrounds when it comes to pure shot calling.
Fnatic is really strong here as well, though, and they oftentimes are great at snowballing the map if they gain the early objectives, so that might be one of the main ideas here for them. The one thing I wanted to also add about Tricked, as you were talking about them, it feels that already in the last phase, but even more so now, they are just having a lot of fun playing these games. We talked to them, and when they lost one of the series, Alex told me later that the entire time when they were losing and about to throw the game, they were just laughing in voice because they themselves thought it was hilarious that they actually gave away such a massive lead. And on one hand, you can be a little bit afraid of that, where you can then argue, hey, you need to take this serious, but as you can see in the games, they do, but they just have that team spirit right now that is very, I want to say nonchalant, where they're just going in.
It's appropriate for them. It's needed, I feel like.
Whenever they have a good team spirit and they have a good atmosphere in voice comms, they do really, really well. So that gives me a lot of hope for their season right now. Fnatic is still a tall order, so this is a difficult game for them, but I like that Tricked seems to be a little bit lighthearted is probably the word that I'm looking for here.
Yeah, and I think to go ahead and further that point, it's absolutely needed for a team like Tricked Esport. We've seen them in the past in Phase 1 when they would lose, they would come out and say things like, we played horribly, that was horrible, that was the worst thing we could have possibly done. They're very critical of themselves. And when they're able to, in that interview, walk away and say, it wasn't our best performance, but hey, we did okay, that puts a smile on my face. That means this team is willing to work together and grow as a team, which is needed. You need a little positivity sometimes in your life. I know we talk a little bit about Special Snowflake here and there occasionally, but in all honesty, Tricked Esports is a team that, if they're in a good mood, it's really needed.
I need the Special Snowflake here at my side. You need to counterbalance me a little bit.
I got you, man.
We work well.
Every morning, I come to pick him up. He's all like sulking on the side of the sidewalk, and I look at him like, hey, man.
Totally
and he smiles. He's happy. He's like, yes, the day is starting. So we work out together. So Ariel is a pickup for Tricked Esport. More double support coming our way. This is here to stay for a while.
Yeah. Tim has figured out a way to make me smile. He brings me coffee. That usually works. But yeah, looking at the draft. So we're starting, of course, once again with some of the most key heroes that we currently have in the meta. But you can already tell that with the pick on Oriel on the #1 spot, things are changing a little bit. Throughout the mid-season brawl and also last week, the high priority in this case would have maybe been the Genji here. We could have seen on other maps even Abatha. But Oriel has now, during this weekend, really picked up as a support because the general consensus in Europe is that double support is the way to go. It's the way to play the game, and Oriel is just a fantastic double support to have, or start into a double support, and you're still flexible enough with her to say, hey, in this draft, maybe the double support is not what we need, maybe we need to go for a solo, and she can fill that role too. So Oriel is just rising in priority for a lot of these teams.
And on the other side, we've been seeing a lot of Rhaegar in the mix-up. Rhaegar's been used as solo support, even a double support occasionally, but him being picked up early for Fnatic, this is a bit of an adjustment, especially for them in particular. Usually you see that a Nubra picked up, or even the Greyman and such, but with Genji and Rhaegar in the mix, Fnatic definitely altering their dress.
Trick is thinking about Tacita at this point. So I said that Oriel is very flexible going into the first spot, but we have seen Tacita take the same position. So the one thing both of them have in common is that they really fit well with any kind of double support combination. So in this situation now, Trick prioritized Oriel higher, but after they saw Fnatic go into the Rhaegar and the Genji pick, they went into the Tacita straight away. And that's one of the interesting things that we have now with the current iteration of double supports. back a few months ago, if you went into a double support, you were always talking about Tacita. Sometimes Azaria just for the shields. But right now you can go into 2 full supports and make that work, and you still have the damage output that you need. So when Fnatic picked up Rhaegar, Tricked all of a sudden said, well, we have to pick our second support right now. We would be happy to go into either Rhaegar or Tacita here, but if Fnatic picks Rhaegar already, starts banning another support, maybe picks a second one for themselves, we might be a little bit more in trouble than we want to be. So they just picked the Tacita right away, and I mean, we all know Oriel Tacita with the Vala is fantastic.
And I like they got the Vala too. Typically when you have a Tacita, you want to have the auto attacker that can really benefit from that lifesteal in particular. Picking up a Tacita in a 5th pick when you don't have an auto attacker can really kind of hurt your team. You're forced to go down the armor route at level 4, and then you're still not quite getting the value. So make sure if you're drafting a Tacita, have an auto attacker, your Lunaras, your Illidan's, your Tracers, or your Vals. If you don't see those options floating around, maybe think twice and get a different support.
Yeah, if you pick the Tacita and you end up not having the strong auto attacker that you want, you can still prioritize your shields on the front line and play with a single tank, but then you would also switch up your level 4 talent from the Life Leech going into the armor talent.
100%.
So as a tank protector, this is a great tool that you can use as well. So Tacita is very flexible in that way. You talked, by the way, earlier about D.Va, and Alex, D.Va was shut down immediately.
Yes.
Fnatic just saying, we've seen what you've been doing here, and we don't want to play around the explosion. So they banned D.Va out against him.
And Cassia gets banned out as well. We've been seeing more and more Cassia as more of a type of situation where Cassia, if she's consistently moving, she can at least trade with the Vol and the Ariel.
Yeah.
We've seen points where we've had a Morelos and a Cassia working together as a unit of 2 and facing off the 3 on the right side, and usually coming out ahead actually in the exchange. Cassia is very powerful at facing off against the hyper carries.
And the bans here, a lot of the bans that we see in the second ban rotation are targeted towards the opponent. We see that with the D.Va. Breeza said in the interview that we just showed you guys how he respects the hero pool of Alex and that he plays different heroes. Once again, also very evident since the Chen now pops in, but they target exactly that hero pool and are saying Alex is too strong with the D.Va, other teams are not that strong with her and haven't really incorporated her in their playstyle. Tricked did, so let's make a target ban happen here.
I like the Chen.
No, go back to the other skin. Dude,
but this one you get to see the ear wiggle. The ear wiggle is Bay.
I don't like the ear wiggle. Give me the. No.
How do you not like the ear wiggle? It's so cute.
War Master, the white one. It's the best. And then you put him on the money pick. It's gold. Actually, it's pink, but.
Your color variations when it comes to pink is like light red. It's a light red color.
No. We said it's German red.
German red. That's
There's a bit of an insider joke going on here at the studio. We don't have to go into that. Malthael, we haven't talked about the pick on the Fnatic side yet. He puts a lot of pressure onto the Immortal, and if you look at what Fnatic has to the point, there's not really too much Immortal pressure yet. Rhaegar can go Lightning Bond, but we have seen a lot of Rhaegar players deviate away from it. But with Malthael, you have a very good tool of burning down the Immortal now. So Fnatic would probably like to pick up a second, and that's where we can see Greymane. And it's interesting that Greymane came back into the draft this late, considering that on Battlefield, he's normally a much higher priority.
Yeah, those supports really kind of setting the draft up. You have to get the Vala early. It is interesting Greymane get down here on the bottom right, but not a bad pick for Fnatic. Now, they've taken this entire composition with the Malthael, and with the first floor is a bit of a slow burn. You kind of poke it a little bit, you have the Malthael damage coming out, but Greymane turns it up a little bit more here. Now they have the race potential available. It seems like Tricked Esport might have to actually be a bit more aggressive with their movements.
I actually think they are not even planning on racing.
Yeah.
They have pressure against the Immortal, which they need, but when I see a variant into what's currently being played by Tricked, the first thing that comes to mind is they want to blow up targets.
Yeah, totally.
And now they have after 10, they go in, they have the taunt, the Cursed Bullet comes in, Malthael just does his thing, and Greymane is looking for the kill. So right now, that is a draft that is incredibly powerful at punishing an opponent that is out of position. So if they get a jump on anybody here, they have a high chance of blowing them up. And with this comp, I could see Tacita saying, you know what? I would love to have I would love to have the lifesteal for my Vala, but if they, with Variant Greymane, blow up a target, then we might lose out on a hero early on in the fight. We can't afford to do that. So it wouldn't shock me to see Tacita go into the armor talent on 4.
Yeah, the Armor Town I think would work here too, especially if you go with the Hungering Arrow. For the most part, Vala can chunk out a lot of hope pretty quickly if she hits that arrow on an opposing member, so you can get those heals going through. It's all about being able to survive that initial burst, especially if Chen's the one that take that taunt. If he's able to live through forward, they can move in for the aggressive play, body blocking happens, Arthas follows up the Howling Blast, and then Vala can go to work. It all comes to the first, I think, 10 seconds of a fight, it feels like, for Fnatic. Do they get a kill? If not, Tricked Esport wants to engage.
I'm also really excited to see if we have the traditional 4-1 split with the solo lane at the top, because it's pretty evident who's going to be the solo laner on the side of Fnatic. They will set Malthael up in that position. But then when you look at Tricked, they could either use the Arthas over there or they could use the Chen. Traditionally, it's the Chen. But both of these are matchups that we have not seen yet in HGC. We have seen the Malthael go up against the Dehaka, we have seen him into the Illidan, but not against the Chen or the Arthas just yet. And I'm really wondering how those two hold up against him, because I think that's going to be pretty rough for them. But that's one of the things I'm really excited for now.
Well, let's watch and enjoy. Game 1 between Fnatic and Tricked Esports now begins. Battlefield of Eternity will be our battleground. Do remember, we're going to a best-of-5 series.
Game number 1 in the series, Fnatic up against Tricked Esports here at the HGC. And starting to the left, once again, our Swedish boy band with a Breeze. Up at the front, we have Quacknix on Greymane. Breeze, of course, on the variant. Smexy with Rhaegar. Wooby, as the solo laner, has taken control of Malthael, and Genji is played by Shrimpy.
On the right side, in the red, Crosby will be on Vala, Maki on Tassadar, Rimmer on Shin, Nape on Ariel, and Alex the Prodigy on Arthas. So watch out for those flanks here. Alex heading straight to the bottom, and look at the laning already. Tassadar seems to be joining Arthas.
Yeah, exactly what we just mentioned. How is the laning going to look for them? And both of the teams are orienting more of their heroes now up to the top. Tassadar is the one that just holds for a little bit. He can also, of course, use the Oracle to spot who's at the bot lane, sees that it's Malthael and that the solo lane is indeed at the bottom, so he doesn't have to help Arthas out in the early game and just simply rotates up to the top. And I have to admit that the Mecha Tassadar on the surfboard looks a lot better than I thought. I'm liking it.
It's got some nice flow there. The blue really coordinating. You have the water behind, second betrayal. I think I agree with you, man. Definitely a higher rating. 8 out of 10, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I would give it a 6.5 for sure.
Okay. Good job, Caldor.
I know.
Perfect rating for our Tassadar. Now, this is interesting. Alex the Prodigy playing really safe in that bottom lane, obviously showing the power of Malthael against tanks to shred forward, also not realizing where everyone was, play safe and does pull it away. Fnatic with the rotation, put 4 in the bottom and work on turrets.
Yeah, they are starting to race here, and they're doing so far quite well. Alex is attempting to stop them, but the first tower is already down, so Fnatic is changing things up immediately. And I think they are doing very well here at the bot lane. Top lane on the other hand, wow, Tassadar nearly falling. Top lane is also looking quite strong, since Rema, of course, on his Chen has the advantage that he can soak tower shots the entire time and allow the rest of the team to do their thing.
Yeah, the good news for bottom lane is that Tassadar can be there to help slow down the push, while on the top there's not much that Fnatic can do with that Genji. However, it doesn't matter. But Greymane sitting on top of a fort, and now it's the Prodigy stepping forward. It's looking like our fourth will fall for both of our teams. Bottom right down, Smexy also taking some damage. Can Alex the Prodigy get a kill? No, he's going to be able to wolf fight straight out.
That would have been insane, but Alex went deep for it, and Marco doesn't have the shield ready, so Arthas is down. I was wondering why Arthas would stay along this long after the fort falls, but he thought he could get the kill. Did turn out to not be the case. Life Leech has been taken on Tassadar, by the way, so the focus more so on Vala. Also for Chen, Elusive Brawler on level 1 is going to help him a lot with the auto attacks that are going to come out from Genji and, of course, the Greymane.
Now it's all about the Immortal phase. Rimmer sets up in the top left. Tassadar actually getting picked on the bottom right. There is still a fight happening here. Shwimpy just barely gets away with a small amount of help. Poor Make, man. He keeps taking damage in that bottom lane.
Yeah, the game so far going very well for Fnatic with 2 kills against 0. We have them with the early mortal pressure now too. And keep in mind that a hero like Malthael will be falling here. Quacknix also in a bit of trouble, but they get the counter kill against Vala, and that's most of the damage that Tricked has on the field now. But if Greymane dies, then of course it's still a great trade for Tricked, and now all of a sudden they are the ones chasing.
This game is just pure chaos right now. A total of 5 kills already in the first 3 minutes of Battlefield Eternity, and they weren't in the middle by the Immortal phase. They were actually on the outskirt lanes here. Both our teams are going for picks. And this seems to favor actually Fnatic here, continuing to get kills back and forth, slowing down Tricked Esports and their strength overall, which allows Fnatic to get closer to that level 10. Breeze, however, being kited on here on the bottom left. Nape will be engaged upon. Here comes Crosby. Nape with the heal will attempt to stay alive, and he does get out. Nope,
Moby is
just
on
kidding.
him, takes him down, and we have Tricked in a lot of trouble. Fnatic is coming back in, and they have the high mobility. Wooby gets healed, might still fall though, and is about to die. Turns around and is finally picked off. This is just a slugfest that we have here. 4 kills on both sides. A slight lead in experience for Tricked, as Shrimpy gets another shot against him from the arrow. So 25 extra damage already for Vala.
Interesting enough, we've got Ring of Fire at level 4 here for our Chen player, and he consistently keeps jumping on Malthael and staying next to him while setting him on fire and bringing that extra area effect damage. Is it actually out DPSing the heal that's available for Malthael? Because he consistently keeps dropping in there. I actually haven't done that matchup before.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job pressuring him. Ring of Fire has been a very popular talent on Chen in Europe. It was interesting to cast North America with Dread the other day, since they played a few Chen games as well, and it was a completely different build that we saw there. And wasn't quite sold on it, but it's different metas, different styles. What we're seeing here from Rema is very traditional for Europe. The level 7 talent is something that interests me though under the circumstances here. But both of the teams are really starting to chunk away at the Immortal. Vala hasn't really hit her power spike just yet. The 7 would help already with the repeating arrow to get the damage into against the Immortal. But if Malthael can move on to Tricked Esports Immortal, that would help them so much.
Well, he's not able to do so as he's having to deal with an Arthas that's chasing him down. Alex Aproji will bring in the last auto attack, but still, Rimmer and Alex Aproji, man, that front robust lineup is being very difficult to break through.
Double support, double tank just in Fnatic's face, and they split off their damage. They split Vala to the Immortal, and during the entire time when the double support kept the tanks alive and Tricked was pushing back Fnatic, Vala just got one hit in after another, arrow after arrow, and now they are the ones who claim the Immortal. So, well played by Tricked, and I like the strategy that they just showed there.
Well, now they're going to group as 5. This is very Tricked Esport. Whenever they grab the Immortals, they attempt to either grab all 5 and push in one lane or offset a different lane. With the 4 already being taken out on the top left, they elect to head down here on the bottom, and they're going to start moving in for the fort. With Wubby in the top pushing in the lane, they're going to take the opportunity to get aggressive and at least secure this fort, and that'll give them a nice experience lead.
Rema has no fear. Absolutely none. He jumps in the entire time. He has his level 7 talent picked, and we're seeing the Boulder flavor, so he gets the instant shield. We also have then the heals and Tacita to keep him alive if need be, but he is always in the middle of Fnatic, really pressuring them and disrupting their flow.
Why wouldn't he be? I mean, look at the opposing team. They have no CC until level 10 hits and Tom becomes available for that variant. There's a slow, but that's about it. Remember, just drinks for free with no punishment whatsoever. Shwimpy diving the back line, but he's going to take damage here as Crosby and Alex Aproji step forward and get the kill.
Tricked was talking about how they're trying to cheese a little bit and how they're hoping to take 1 or 2 games off Fnatic, but at this point they are looking really strong. It's not only that they took the fort, they were able to get a 1.5 level lead into an early level 10, which would allow them to play hyper aggressive on the map. And as you can tell here, Fnatic, they are struggling in the early game. They need the 10. They definitely need to have Taunt available and the Cursed Bullet so that they can pressure heroes like Chen.
Yeah, Fnatic are looking for just any type of experience they can grab here. They're going to have the Turks on the top right. They're trying to get the 10 themselves before the next Immortal phase. Should be able to be around like 9.5, 9.75 before that Immortal phase does begin. But they desperately need to get 10 as Tricked Esports is about to hit it with his minion waves.
I love what Trick does. They know that Fnatic will power spike hard very, very soon. Shattered Throw is also coming out on Varian in a bit. So they are going for a keep. They have the level 10. Fnatic cannot contest it. They can't defend it, because once they do, Rema is just going to jump in, and Trick is just running with this. They are saying, guys, we need to push the envelope right now. If we don't get a massive advantage at this point, Fnatic will come back swinging and take us down, because Fnatic's comp scales great into the late game. They have the Malthael. He's working on his quest talent on level 4. Once he hits 16, he is going to be a nightmare for Chen, for Arthas. Then we have the Cursed Bullet, plus Taunt, Shattered Throw coming in. So Trick did everything right. They saw when they had a massive lead and they got the most out of it. They took the keep early on. And Fnatic, the big question here is, now you have your 10s, you're starting to hit your potential. but is it too late already?
Yeah, can you get the fight that you want? They need to win a fight decisively and also win the Immortal here to start getting in a spot where they can make their comebacks occur. And they do have the tools here, as you mentioned, the Dragon Blade, the taunt being important, but that Curse Bullet, really great for bringing down an Arthas or even the Chen if they get the proper lockdown. But if Chen does survive the initial onslaught that comes forward from Fnatic, Tricked will be in a very happy moment. We went for a bit of a race here for both of our teams on the left side. Halftime show will connect.
Yeah, this is all about setups now. Remaballer has to be a bit more careful about his approaches since we have Taunt and Curse Bullet online. He's still very tough to kill though. So just because you have these two heroic abilities doesn't mean you can insta-kill him every time he approaches. Crosby with an early strafe here already, getting some damage in. They're trying to push the opponent away from the Immortal so they can chunk it down. And Vala is by now by 50 extra damage. Here we go, Curse Bullet is out, Taunt has been used, but Remaballer not even phased.
Rimmer losing almost a quarter of his health there, and that is it. Gonna drink up with Nape, bringing in the heals there from that hope that strafe did generate. And it's all about the poke game here for Tricked Esport. At some point, Fnatic has to make the commitment.
Now keep in mind that we're talking about Malthael. You have to take the level 7 talent into consideration, and this is really important since you have a double support against you. He counters that to a big extent if he uses his level 7, the activatable, if he goes for the Touch of Death. To get the value, he needs to jump in with his ult though. So Fnatic is looking for the team fight where they can more or less negate a ton of the healing that we're seeing from Oriel in particular.
Wubby did clear that top lane. He's come back to the fight. The Immortal slowly but surely does get chunked down. Taunt comes out. Alex Pochi will get hit by the stun by the Immortal. Wubby goes in and he pops the ult.
Here we go, and now they have the healing, of course. Touch of Death also activated. They go for Alex. The heals from Oriel, just not enough. In comes Shrimpy. They kill the double, and they're looking for a third one. Crosby is low, but the taunt comes in once again, and that is the end of Vala. Fnatic popping off against Tricked and getting the triple.
Wubby getting that value that mentioned from Malthael. The Touch of Death made Ariel's hope come out. Not enough, and Arthas was focused down. Big mistake by Arthas for sitting next to the Immortal and getting taunted and caught with the Immortal stun, but still, the Malthael just doing work in that fight.
Exactly. That's exactly what he needs to do there. So he jumped in immediately. He used the Tormented Souls, which makes him very hard to kill. Look at Rhaegar alone. He didn't even have to use the Ancestral in the fight. Malthael was in the middle of the opponent. Thanks to his ult, he completely applied his trade, and then the Touch of Death made it really tricky for Oriel to heal everyone up. Then, from that point, they take the first tank down, and then, of course, the resets on a hero and Genji are fantastic for them.
Tricked Esports going for a big flank, but Vala cut out of position. Aegis will have to be used immediately. Finally, Pochi gets to the fight, but Crosby is so low on health that he's actually been taken out. There is no Vala for Tricked.
Once again, making sure that they have the Touch of Death also available. The ult from Malthael is now ready, but this is already another triple. Alex is also low, and this Immortal is absolutely fantastic for Fnatic. Tricked had such a great early game, but they knew that in the mid game they would suffer, and Fnatic is showcasing just how difficult to beat their composition is. They could go for the win here.
This is Fnatic, man. When it comes to coordination and execution, they always pull it off, and they have not missed a beat here. They continue to move in. Arthas will be focused down, and Fnatic just finds a target, and they delete him. With no Arthas on the field, they're moving straight into the Immortal. Crosby is back up. He will have strafe in 15 seconds, but the Immortal is killing the core here. 30%, 20%, 10%, and Fnatic hits level 10 and just runs away with the game.
Get the game, and Fnatic takes the victory. And what this game really showed was that both teams, and Fnatic even more so, they understand their power spikes. This is one of the games where in the early game Fnatic knew we have a problem early on. If we can get the Immortal, we can drag it out easily, but it was actually Tricked that picked it up. So with that, Tricked could do way too much, and Fnatic couldn't handle in the early game all the pressure. They needed Malthael's ult, they needed the Curse Bullet, they needed the taunt. And once they picked up level 10, that's really when they were starting to drive the agenda.
It's terrifying.
But Tricked was actually in a position where they understood that too, and they said, we need early on to really snowball, and they got the keep. The problem is that later on they weren't able to win the second Immortal. If they win another one, they have a lot more wiggle room on the map and can get further ahead. But Fnatic, they understood where their power spike was. Once they hit it, they started to engage, and that was great play.
Yeah, it seriously stresses how important you have to understand what your draft can do and what you can pull off as a team. And the thing is for the most part, Tricked was in a great spot. They were ahead. They had to keep taking down the bottom left. There was one slight misstep where they were fighting near an Immortal. We had Breeze move in, grab the Arthas right on top of the Immortal stun, and that was the fight over in Fnatic's eyes. They moved in, got the engage, and completely burned through. You mentioned that level 7 for Malthael, absolutely devastating, and it seemed like from there was no way that Tricked could even start to come back.
One of the reasons why Tricked later on tried this flank at the Immortal and didn't try to simply defend their keep might look a bit awkward, but one of the thought process here was really that, first of all, they were trying to play around cooldowns.
Yeah.
They were saying, once that Malthael has the Touch of Death and his ult up again, the next fight is going to look the same. Our tanks are going to have massive problems. Oriel won't be able to keep anyone alive. So what we have to do is force a fight a bit earlier, and ideally making sure that it's not a linear fight that Arthas comes in from behind. The problem they had is that Vala got picked just so fast.
Yeah.
So they went in a little bit too early. It was not perfectly coordinated, and even with the Aegis, Oriel couldn't save the target. So once Vala falls, you are in trouble and you lose everyone. But the thought process that they had, I actually like it. They knew they had to fight the fight early, just before the ults come back online, just before Malthael has his cooldowns ready. They did that, but then again, they just miscoordinated a little bit, and Fnatic was just too good.
I mean, we're talking hair timings when it comes to that engage. If Arthas was 2 seconds earlier, he may actually get on that back line, and then you suddenly have Vala with the full strafe going off. Perhaps the actual engage with the taunt comes off on the Arthas instead. He's able to live through with the Aegis coming out, and they can win that team fight and clean up the Immortal. But you can just see the difference between these two teams. 1 to 2 seconds, the difference between a team fight completely won or lost. Now let's go ahead and talk about Battleground number 2, as it's time to continue moving forward through this best of 5